will be used as a switch. Okay. Similarly, this is another to operate an relay. Okay, it can be used. So you have an positive supply being given to this transistor. This will switch on. So now the relay is connected from VCC, so the relay will get activated. Similarly, if you give a 0 volt here, this will be off and the relay will not be activated. So we learnt about when I spoke about relays and inductors, I told the requirement of an flywheel diode. If you don't put this diode, the voltages can the moment you do an switching, the voltages across the inductor can go very high, because there is no path for the current to get discharged. Okay, right? Because inductor, relay has got an inductor and it tries to store the tries to retain the current. So the moment you switch it off, the path will be broken, but there has to be some method for the current to get the charges available in the inductor to get discharged. So there could be sparks flying. So this I explained it detailed in the class on inductor, right? So that this is known as the flywheel diode, which you connect here. Now once you operate the relay, so you will have a normally open and normally closed contacts. So normally closed means whenever the relay is not energized, this contact will be made, and when the relay is energized, this contact will be made. So you have one switch here, right? So this switch can be used to say you can operate 230 volt also at these. You can give a 230 volt here and you can connect your fan, AC, lights and things like that, right? So this could be operated with your microprocessor with a 5 volt or a 12 volt. So that is why. So it isolates this 230 system from your microprocessor and things like that, right? So these kind of circuits are generally used. So this transistor is basically a driver circuit between the microprocessor and the 230 volt systems. Okay, these are known as the driver circuit. So you have relay boards like this. Okay, these things are readily available in the market, and which will have this input 2 terminals and output these 3 terminals, and these are the input terminals to control this BJT. So these kind of ready-made relays are available in the market. Okay. Also the transistors can be used as amplifiers. Okay, like you give a small signal, AC signal of few millivolts. So a transistor can amplify that signal by even 1000 times. Okay, so if you give a 1 millivolt signal, you can obtain a 1 volt signal also out here. So so suppose you have a mic which generates only a few volts, a few millivolts of signal, whereas your speakers and what you have, they will require around close to a few volts of signals out here. So that kind of amplification can be done using a BJT, which we will learn in the next class. Okay, how to use, but I'm just touching upon the application aspect so that we know why we are going to study about BJT. Now similarly, BJTs can be used to generate sine wave, which is known as oscillators. So these circuits also, these kind of circuits are also generally used with the BJT and a feedback network of LC network to generate. So they will resonate at a one particular frequency, and because of the negative feedback, they will generate sinusoidal signals. So these kind of sinusoidal signals are used for many purpose, like for communication equipments and all, for modulation, RF signals. So these things can be generated by the sinusoidal. Wherever there is a requirement of sinusoidal signal, you can use a BJT and a combination of LC network to generate sinusoidal signals. They are known as oscillators. Okay, so they are used in IC 555. This is an IC which is generally used very widely to generate square wave. So within the IC 555, you have BJTs. Okay, the final output is a square wave. And also there are digital ICs which use BJTs. For example, if I have to realize a function NAND. Okay, NAND is like if you have an input 0 0, the output will be 1, 0 1, output will be 1, 1 0, it will be 1, 1 1 is 0. Okay, 1 1 means it is not this and this and this. Okay, will be 1, that is and. Okay, if this and this both are 1, if the output is 0, it is inverted and that is what it is called as NAND gate, and NAND is a universal gate. With NAND you can synthesize any function. Okay, so with transistors also we can synthesize an NAND gate. Like if you see here, if both the transistors are 1, now only then the current will flow like this, right? And when the current flows here, okay, you will have an IR drop across R and the voltage will be 0. Even if one of the transistor is off, so for all the first 3 combinations, here both transistors are off, here one is off, here the second is off. That means if one of the transistors is off, obviously the current cannot flow here. So output available will be VCC, that is logical one. If both the transistors are on, then you will have current flowing from VCC through this R, through these transistors. So all the voltage which is available VCC will get dropped as IR drop across the resistance R2, and there will be 0 volt. So you can use BJTs to make digital ICs also, right? So there are several modes of operations of BJT. The one which we discussed till now is forward active mode. Okay, that means VBE, we said this diode, this junction is going to be forward biased and this is going to be reverse biased. This is known as forward reverse bias. This is the this is the condition required for amplification and most commonly used. Okay, if both the junctions are reverse biased, it is known as reverse active. If this junction is reverse biased and this is forward biased, it is known as a reverse active, which we generally don't use. Okay, this is known as saturation. Okay, saturation is this junction is forward biased and this is also forward biased. Okay, this is when the switch is on. Actually we don't bias it that way, but that situation comes whenever you suppose this is the transistor. Okay, initially, see, this junction is, we are going to be forward biased by giving plus here. This is initially reverse biased, like you have given a VC voltage out here, but when I given a supply voltage here, right, so this becomes forward biased, this also becomes forward biased, was the current flowing out here. Okay, that will drop this voltage to 0. Now since this is you are given a high voltage here, this was initially high, but once this transistor gets switched on, the current is flowing here and this voltage has become 0 here. So now this junction has got a reverse bias because this transistor has got switched on. So in switches we encounter this condition of both the junctions being forward biased when the switch is on. And in cutoff, both the junctions are reverse biased. Okay, if I go back here, now if I don't give any supply voltage in here, obviously this is positive voltage here, so this is reverse biased, and since I am not giving any supply voltage here, this junction is also and although it is 0, you can call it as reverse biased. Okay, so this is one condition, it is known as cutoff. Okay, so this is known as cutoff condition where both the junctions are reverse biased. Okay, now this is where the current equations, this is important to understand and how these currents are related to each other. Okay, now this we discussed earlier. IE, the emitter current, is sum of base current and the collector current. Okay, now IC is also related to the emitter current by IC is approximately alpha times IE, where alpha is 0.95 to 0.995, right? We told electrons enter from the P region, a small portion comes to B, rest of the goes to IC. That means IC and IE are approximately equal, right? So it is around 0.95 to 0.995. Okay, so this is the so that small fraction, okay, of the that is given by an value known as an alpha. Okay, so IC and IE are related by this equation. IC is approximately alpha times IE, right? So if you see here, IC is equal to alpha times IE, and what is this ICBO is even if there is no it is not forward biased, okay, there will be some leakage currents, okay, from the collector to emitter. It should not be because the junctions are reverse biased in this condition, but still because of thermal emission there will be some leakage current. So that is what it is written, ICBO, right? Now if you see here, alpha, again alpha IE, IE is written as IC plus IB, right? And then you bring the IC terms together here, then you write an you bring the IC here, then you can write an IC is equal to alpha divided by 1 minus alpha IB and plus 1 minus alpha 1 divided by 1 minus alpha ICBO. So IC is given by beta IB plus beta plus 1 ICBO. Okay, so this is another equation. Now we have introduced one more term which is beta out here. Right. So now what is beta? Beta times IB is IC. Right. So if you neglect ICBO. So these are the two. Now like for the value of alpha, generally it falls between 0.95 to 0.995, whereas beta can be anything between 200 to 20 to 200, right? And this is the relation between beta and alpha. Now for all practical purposes in this course, because this course is basically electrical science and we are not going too deep into microelectronics, we will neglect this leakage current. Okay, so we are going to use these four formulas. So IE is equal to IB plus IC. This is the first and foremost formula. And then IC, okay, the collector current is going to be beta times IB. Okay, this is once we forward biased beta, so IB, okay, beta times IB comes from IC. Now that gets added with IB. So 1 plus beta times IB is going to flow through IE. Okay, so if I put here beta times IB, the collector current will be 1 plus beta times IB. Right. So IC is equal to beta IB, that is 1, and then beta is given by alpha divided by 1 minus alpha, and the range of beta is generally for fabricated transistors 20 to 200. Similarly alpha, okay, alpha is beta divided by 1 plus beta, and alpha, this equation also will be requiring I collector is equal to I alpha IE. So alpha can be computed by beta divided by 1 plus beta, and the range is usually 0.95 to 0.995. So these are some of the equations which we need to remember. Right. Now how to make an amplifier using an BJT. So suppose I am giving a small signal here of few millivolts. So obviously this transistor, like I said, this is acts like a diode, right? This is the P, this is N. So I cannot have an 0 volt here and 0.1 volt and minus 0.1 volt. No, this transistor won't operate then at all, because 0.7 is the minimum voltage which requires it to be switched on. So I give some DC voltage VBE. So here if you see VBE here, right? So 0.7 is the minimum. So that is known as the biasing voltage. Okay. So VBE. So we bias the transistors here, and after biasing there we give a small AC signal. Okay. This is in few millivolts. So this is in fact, so this transistor remains on. Okay. So the small change, because if you don't give this VBE, the small change of current voltage will not even switch on this transistor. So there is a requirement to give some bias voltage so that this transistor is switched on, and it will remain switched on for the positive and negative excursions here, because this is in few millivolts. So I am biasing it say at 0.75 or 0.8 volt. Now a small variation in the input current, okay, that will create a small change in IB, right? And that small change in IB will cause large change in IC, because the relation between IB and IC is IC is beta times IB, right? So it will cause large change in current in IC. Now that IC, when it moves across the RL, it will create a large potential change across RC. Okay, so that's how the voltage gets amplified. This will again discuss. So let's now I am just introducing you a little bit about it, so that to understand there is a requirement of biasing this transistor to 0.7 volt. Okay, now if you see this is V in. V in, when I say V in, it is the small signal. Okay, so whenever we talk about BJTs and all, so when I say V in, it is not this total V in. Okay, you are considering that there is already a bias here. This small AC signal is called V in, and that is going to cause an current IB, right? Variation, small variation in current. Okay, that small variation in the current is termed as an IB, small IB, right? So this amplitude of current. Okay, so the input impedance as seen by this, like, so that is known as R pi. R pi is the on resistance offered by this, and it is the resistance offered by the base and emitter. So for small change in V in, there will be small change in IB, and the relation will be defined by R pi, whereas R pi is the property of the transistor. Now IC we know is beta times IB, right? So beta times IB. Now if I take the output voltage here, right, across the collector, I can write V out is VDD. This is the VDD. Okay, VCE, whatever I have written VDD out here, minus IC RL. Okay, so that is the static condition. These are all the DC currents. Now if I am just interested in the variation of the voltage here, like if I put a capacitor and if I take a voltage across the collector, then all this DC component vanishes. So VDD gets that's a DC component which gets blocked. So I have the AC component being tapped, and it is IC into RC, right? So IC is changing with respect to V in, right? So now IC is what, beta times IB, and what is IB? IB is an V in divided by R pi, right? IB is V in divided by R pi. So if you do those substitution, gain is what, V out by V in, right? So if you do that, you will get the gain as beta RC divided by R pi. Now beta is of the range of 200, right? And then RC can be, say, 10 kilo ohms, and this can be around suppose R pi is only 2 kilo ohms, and so beta is 200. So suppose RK is 10K and R pi is 1K. So you will find a gain of 2000 is also possible. So that is how the voltage gets amplified in an BJT. Okay, so this is how an BJT amplifier works like. But for that to so before going on to the biasing, let's see what a small signal equivalent of an BJT looks like. So you are giving a positive supply here, so you have an RB here. So when you give a small signal out here, okay, so this is the small signal equivalent. So for an AC signal, this BJT is going to offer a resistance known as R pi. So this is known as the input impedance of the BJT. Okay, so mind you, this is not to compute the DC currents. This is small R pi is just to compute the AC currents. Okay, so when we take on the problems, it will be very clear. This R pi, this is the small signal. What does small signal means? Small signal means for AC currents. Okay, now if I have to compute the current in DC current, okay, flowing here, what would be the operating current? Then if I apply VB, so the voltage across this VBE will be 0.7 volt. Okay, so for DC analysis, I will find out, how do I find out IB? Will be VB minus 0.7 divided by RB. Okay, so that is different. Okay, now this we are talking what happens when a small AC signal of few millivolts is applied here. So then now how will IB vary? So this is the differential IB. Okay, so this differential IB will differential voltage which is applied here, small AC signal which is applied here, that will be encountered by a resistance which is known as an R pi, and the beta times of IB. So IB is what, variation of the base current, and that beta times IB will be flowing through the collector. So this is known as the small signal equivalent. So we need to remember this particular circuit for analyzing the transistor circuits. Okay, so now what is the need for biasing? I told the transistor, first of all, we need to ensure that the transistor is biased properly. Okay, so we need, because if you don't bias it, if you are going to straight away give some AC signal to the input of the base, and if you don't give any DC signal, so the transistor may not get switched on at all. So you have to ensure that for the output current to reflect whatever input changes is being applied, to get a proportional output you need to ensure that the transistor is always in the on region, right? So you need to give some certain bias voltage there. Okay, and also if you see there are so that is the reason we ensure that the some bias voltage is applied across the base region, and also we have to ensure that the collector voltage is at a higher potential than the base voltage, so that the base collector junction or the collector base junction is reverse biased. Okay, so base collector is reverse biased or collector base is forward biased, whichever way we call it that way. So that is the need for DC biasing. Also, when we do the biasing, we have also to see that if you see here the VBE, that is the junction voltage of the between the base and the emitter. Okay, that decreases, that is usually we call it is 0.7 volt, like, right, for diodes also, because this is also a diode. So it is a we say 0.7 volt or 0.75 volt, whatever generally it is specified. So 0.7 volt is the voltage which is generally there, that is actually at room temperature, but with it starts decreasing when the temperature rises. Okay, so your biasing should be in such a way that even if that VBE changes, okay, VB is that intrinsic voltage which is there within that junction between the base and the emitter, right? Like for diodes also, we learnt that the moment you connect two junctions and 0.7 volt barrier is potential barrier is generated within the diode. Similarly, for a transistor also, that junction is also exactly a forward bias junction, where intrinsically some 0.7 volt and a potential barrier will be created. That potential barrier will decrease, okay, from 0.75. Slowly it will start decreasing with a rise of temperature. So your biasing circuit should take care of that aspect. Okay, otherwise there could be thermal runaway. Similarly, this leakage current also between the collector and the base, it keeps getting doubled for every 10-degree rise of temperature. So these issues have to be taken care of in the way we bias the transistor. So we'll see how different few different biasing techniques, how to take care of these things. Okay, so the first and foremost way, one of the ways of biasing a transistor is, so this is an you just have to, this is the most simplest way, but it has got drawbacks. We will see that you're going to bias this transistor with from the power supply. You just put an RB, and then you put a capacitor here and give the AC signal out here in the input side. Now by putting this RB out here, right, so what are the equations? Like VC, the collector voltage will be VCC minus ICRC. So some IC will flow here, so ICRC, right? So this is one equation. VCE is VC is VC minus VE. Now here VE is 0. VBE, okay, this is VBE, right? Now to compute IB, or what would be the DC current which is flowing here, we use this equation, VCE minus VBE divided by RB. Okay, so so we can compute the value of RB. VB is generally 0.7 volt here, right? So accordingly, whatever base current we require, okay, to bias it, so we can if this is, we are going to bias it at 0.7 volt, right? So if you put a 0.7 volt here, so we will have some base current VC, depending on what is the base current which we require, we can design the value of RB. So this design also I'll explain you how to design an amplifier in maybe the next class. Okay, now these are the equations which is applicable to this biasing circuit. So IC is beta IB and IE is equal to IC plus beta. So these are the equations which are applicable to this circuit. Now if you see the drawback of this circuit, this is IB, right? So if you write delta IB, that is variation in IB, delta VCC by delta VB by RB. That means any small variation of the voltage, okay, that will be delta VC divided by RB. That will cause a straight effect. It will have a straight effect on variation in IB also. Okay, similarly any change in voltage of VBE, like with increase in temperature VBE decreases. Okay, so VBE decreases. Now why we are considering this delta VC? Because there will be fluctuations in power supply also. We don't want the biasing in such a manner that a small fluctuation in power supply will cause the operating point to shift. Okay, we don't want that condition. So that is the reason we are trying to analyze what will be the effect of change of VCC also. So if you see here, any change of VCC will cause a change of base current also, and the equation will be delta VC divided by RV. Similarly, when the temperature increases, if you see here, this has got a problem out here. This, when the temperature increases, VBE decreases, right? That we learnt here. If I go here, with every VBE decreases for every 1 degree rise of temperature. Now here in this circuit, when the temperature increases, VBE decreases. If VBE decreases, IB is going to increase, right? Because this is negative out here, IB is going to increase. More IB is going to create more IC. And now more IC means more current will flow here. Again, this transistor is likely to get heated up, right? Then it will generate more heat. More heat is again going to further drop VBE. So you have a condition known as thermal runaway. Like if you bias this transistor like this, it is possible that it will slowly the temperature will increase. That will increase the current. That increase in current will again increase the temperature, and finally this transistor will get burnt out. Okay, so you have a problem with this biasing. But if the currents are very for a particular application, if you are biasing it at very low currents, then this circuit is this could be okay. Okay, if this is very high and it will restrict the current flowing here, then you could probably use this. But this has got a problem of thermal runaway. Now this is known as collector feedback biasing. So this doesn't have that thermal runaway problem. So here the equations will change. If you see here, VC here is an RC into in bracket an IC plus IB, because this is the current which is flowing here, and you have IB current flowing like this, right? So the voltage drop across this will be RC into IC plus IB. So V is 0, VB is VBE, and now IB is again VC minus VB by RB, and IC is beta IC, and these are the equations which are applicable to this particular circuit. Now if I write delta IB, I write delta VC minus delta VB by RB, right? So in this case, if you see here, what happens is this is slightly more stable. Any power supply variation that will get reflected delta VC divided. But what about the temperature variations? Suppose the temperature has increased, IC will increase, right? VBE will decrease. Decrease in VBE, okay, will increase IC. Now that increase of IC here will cause VC to decrease. Okay, so this VC will decrease. Now so hence the current will decrease out here. So there is no thermal runaway. So this is known as a kind of feedback which is given. It is a negative feedback here. So the moment VBE decreases, like because of temperature, then the IC increases, right? IC increases means VC is going to decrease, because there is going to be more drop across RC, and which in turn causes since VC is lesser now, that is going to decrease VB. So you don't have a thermal runaway problem in this kind of biasing. Okay, now this is the biasing which is known as emitter feedback biasing. This is the one which is generally used in most of the transistor designs. So this is the most important method which you need to know for practical design aspects. Now if you see, so there are some equations which are applicable to this circuit. Now VC is equal to VC, that is the collector voltage, is VCC minus RC IC. Okay, that is equal to VE. Okay, VE, because now here VE is not 0, unlike the other two cases. You have VE, okay, plus VCE, right? So now VE is nothing but IE into RE. So you need to remember this also. Now what is VB here? Now VB is, you have two transistors, two resistors here and VC here. So this acts like a potential divider. So and then what is VBE is going to be VB minus VE, right? So so this is how this equation is written here. VBE plus VE is VB. So that is RB2 divided by RB1 plus into VCC. So this is the potential divider rule which we have applied on the right hand side. On the left hand side we have written VBE plus IERE. So you can compute the values with these equations. You can compute the value of the base currents also out here, right? So if you do a certain simplification from this and substitution, you get the base current value as VB minus VB divided by RB plus 1 plus beta times RE. So now if you see here, this is the voltage VB, right? So VBE, okay, VB, what is the voltage here? Minus VE, and you have an RB here, right? And 1 plus beta times RE, right? So this new factor has come in the denominator because of this RE. So you can do this and see it for yourself. So you have in the IB you have 1 plus beta times RE. These two, they remain as it is. Okay, so now if you see that, now if I write delta IB, now it is delta VB out here minus delta VBE divided by 1 plus beta times RE, right? So I am writing delta out here, right? Just now if you see any change in power supply voltage VCC will cause a change in VBE, but that doesn't really get change the IB drastically, because in the denominator you have 1 plus beta RE. Now beta, we said it is going to be in the order of 200, and if you put an 200K, or say even if I put a 10K resistance here, 200 into 10K, right? So it is around 200 into 10K is what? So it is 2000K or 2 mega ohm, right? So you will find that this variation in voltage is not going to create a big variation in IB. Similarly, the variation in BE with temperature is not going to create an variation in IB, because in the denominator you have 1 plus beta RE, whereas beta is around 200 and this will be in few kilo ohms. So you will find in the denominator you have something in the mega ohms region. So that is why this is the way we bias and generally bias a BJT using this kind of network, where you have two resistors here, and then you have one collector resistance and the emitter resistance. So this is the kind of biasing which is widely used in practical circuits. Okay. For VLSI circuits, then we go again, the biasing is much more critical. In those cases we generate current sources here. Okay, this is known as constant current biasing. This current source is fairly, it will be independent of temperature variations and power supply variations. Okay, so we use those kind of biasing in VLSI. This is just for academic interest. You don't have to remember this particular circuit here for this course. So we generally in VLSI circuits we use something. So this current, so this is generated through band gap circuits. So these currents will be independent of temperature variations as well as power supply variations. So these kind of biasings are also done in BJT. Okay, so today we have just learnt a little bit about BJT and the requirement of biasing, and for various biasing what are the equations which will be applicable, right? So you need to just remember few things from this class. One are these are the equations which you need to remember, and then we need to remember this is the small signal equivalent. Okay, so this is the for a BJT. This remember, if you have to compute the DC currents here, then I am going to use these equations. Like when I am going to do analysis of a small signal, and only then I am going to use replace this with that small signal out here, right. So small signal equivalent. Okay, so and then these for these three kind of feedback networks, what would be the currents and bias conditions that you need to know. Okay, thanks a lot.